Let's jump right in, shall we? Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a side of tourism that honestly I find absolutely fascinating. We're going to step away from those beautiful, picture-perfect destinations and local cultures for just a minute. Instead, we're looking at tourism for what it really is, behind the scenes. A high-stakes, strategic game of money, corporate ownership, and serious market power. I mean, think about it for a second. Have you ever noticed that when you hop onto an app like Make My Trip to book a flight, that exact same app suddenly wants to book your hotel, arrange your airport cab, and even sell you travel insurance? Well, that is definitely not a coincidence. It's actually a highly deliberate business strategy that academics call integration. And if you've ever wondered how massive global hotel chains like Marriott or Hilton suddenly popped up all over India, especially when it used to just be government-run entities, well, that all boils down to a massive macroeconomic force called liberalization. So here's our agenda for today's explainer. First, the business of tourism. Second, horizontal integration. Third, vertical integration. Fourth, an integration reality check. Fifth, India's LPG reforms. And finally, number 6, globalization's double-edged sword. Let's get to it.
All right, Section 1, the business of tourism.
The real secret to understanding the travel industry is realizing this. Tourism isn't just about the destination. It's about who actually owns the journey. Today, we're pulling back the curtain. We want to see exactly how these massive companies merge, acquire, and maneuver behind the scenes just to dominate the market.
Moving on to Section 2, horizontal integration explained.
Okay, let's break down horizontal integration. The absolute most crucial point to remember here is this. It happens when two companies that operate at the exact same level of the supply chain merge, or one simply acquires the other. By same level, I mean they do the exact same type of work. Just picture two competitors standing side by side, shaking hands and deciding to join forces. To make this abstract idea a bit more concrete, let's look at some real-world examples. Take Make My Trip acquiring Goibibo and Redbus. All three of those platforms were operating at the exact same level, travel booking and distribution. That right there is textbook horizontal integration. Or, take an international example. Back in 2016, Marriott acquired Starwood Hotels. Two massive hotel companies at the exact same level became one giant entity, which literally overnight made Marriott the largest hotel chain in the entire world. So why do they actually do this? Well, if you're taking notes for an exam, this is the core logic you need to know. Horizontal integration is all about increasing market share and completely eliminating independent competitors. Basically, the more companies at the same level that merge together, the fewer independent players are left to compete against them. It's all about consolidating power at that one specific level. All right, Section 3, vertical integration explained. Now, let's visualize the supply chain for a typical vacation. Right at the top, you've got your tour operator or travel agency. Step down, and you have the airline. Below that, the hotel. And finally, at the very base, you have local catering and transport. So vertical integration happens when one single company decides, you know what, they don't just want one of these steps. They want to own multiple levels of this entire chain. Now, this can actually go in two different directions, and distinguishing between them is an absolute favorite for competitive exams. First up is backward integration. This is when a company buys the supply source behind them in the chain. Think of a tour operator buying a hotel just to secure their own supply of rooms. Then there's forward integration. This is when a company moves forward, getting closer to the actual customer. For instance, a hotel opening its very own travel agencies so they can sell directly to tourists and just cut out the middleman entirely. The classic, textbook example of this is the Thomas Cook model. Historically, under one single brand umbrella, they owned the tour operator, the travel agency, the airline, and, believe it or not, even the cruise lines. So if you booked a package with them, your entire vacation, from the moment you boarded the flight to the resort booking itself, was controlled by one single vertically integrated entity, the whole shebang. But really, why take on this massive logistical headache? Well, there are three main reasons. First, economies of scale. Simply put, doing things in bulk across your own supply chain is a lot cheaper. Second, it gives you total control over quality and pricing. If you own the hotel, you set the standards, right? And third, it severely squeezes out those small, independent players who just literally cannot compete with a giant that controls every single step of the journey. Which brings us to Section 4, the integration reality check. So academics are quick to point out a major operational clash here because, let's be real, just because a company owns an airline and a hotel, it absolutely doesn't mean they'll run efficiently together. Think about it. Airlines operate on a highly standardized, super rigid, schedule-driven logic, what academics call Fordist. Hotels, on the other hand, require flexible, customized, post-Fordist service. Trying to force these two totally different operational cultures under one corporate roof, yeah, that often creates some massive internal friction. And then, there is the huge danger of risk concentration. If everything is interconnected, a single point of failure can take down the entire ship. A perfect example is the 2010 Iceland volcano ash cloud crisis. When all those flights were grounded across Europe, these vertically integrated companies didn't just lose money on their airlines, oh no. Their tour operators completely stalled, and their owned hotels sat totally empty. They suffered these massive, simultaneous losses across their entire interconnected supply chain.
Moving on to Section 5, India's LPG tourism reforms.
To really understand how this applies, we need a bit of historical context. So pre-1991, India operated under what was known as the License Raj. Businesses needed heavy government approvals for almost everything. And tourism was virtually a monopoly run by Air India and government entities like the ITDC. Foreign investment was heavily restricted. But then, in 1991, a massive balance of payments crisis triggered a huge shift. Then Finance Minister Manmohan Singh launched the new economic policy, which ushered in the era of liberalization, privatization, and globalization, what we now call the LPG era. And this brilliantly illustrates the direct impact those LPG reforms had on Indian tourism across 4 massive areas. First up, investment. 100% foreign direct investment was finally allowed, which just blew the doors wide open for giants like Marriott and Hilton to enter the market. Second, aviation. Open skies policies allowed private airlines, think Jet Airways, Indigo, and SpiceJet, to finally end the state monopoly, which really drove down prices. Third, distribution. This is when digital online travel agencies, or OTAs, like Make My Trip emerged, totally democratizing how we book. And fourth, infrastructure modernized incredibly fast through new cross-border collaborations. All right, our final section, number 6, globalization, the double-edged sword. So, while liberalization absolutely democratized travel and brought much better infrastructure, academics do warn of a phenomenon called homogenization, or the McDonaldization of tourism. It's basically this idea that when global standardization takes over, unique local destinations start to lose their distinct character. They end up being replaced by the exact same identical international hotel chains and standardized experiences, no matter where in the world you happen to travel. And this connects the macro stuff directly back to those micro concepts we started with. Liberalization brings in foreign corporates, who then use horizontal and vertical integration to completely dominate the market. And the result? Local, independent players just get squeezed out. Market power reconcentrates back into the hands of a few megacorporations. Plus, we see something called economic leakage. This is where the revenues generated in a local destination don't actually stay in a local economy, but instead flow right back out to foreign investors. Okay, let's quickly summarize the core concepts to really solidify your learning, especially if you're prepping for exams. Remember the difference between horizontal integration, which is merging at the exact same level, and vertical integration, which is owning multiple steps of the supply chain. Know the difference between moving backward to buy a supplier and moving forward to reach the customer. And of course, never forget the 3 pillars of the 1991 reforms: liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with this final thought. We've talked a lot today about high-level economic theories, massive global mergers, national policy reforms. But what does all of this actually mean for the reality of small businesses right in your own neighborhood? Is your local homestay or that independent travel agent down the street surviving this corporate squeeze? Or have they basically been integrated out of existence? Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer. If you found this breakdown helpful, please subscribe and definitely let me know your thoughts on that final question in the comments below.